G'day and welcome to another episode of Tomo's Tune-Ups. On this episode we are driving, but more importantly, working on a historic and classic vehicle. So guys, like I said, we are going to be working on yet another classic vehicle. This is not a Mini, instead it is something else. And for those people in the comments, maybe you know exactly what this is in the opening video. So let's go for a bit of a drive and see what this old girl has. Now this thing is absolutely slow as a wet week. This thing has no power, this thing is gutless, and to be quite frank, the steering's all over the place. It does grind gears, and the brakes are quite noisy. So, long story short, the customer reached out at the end of 2022 and asked if I could have a look at his car for him. Now, this is a car that I'm not overly familiar with, and to be quite frank, not really sure, simply because this thing has a flathead engine, which is something I've never worked on before. In saying that, it does run the same principles as a modern car, but obviously quite different, having the cylinder head being quite small and majority of the internal workings of the engine literally inside the engine. So it's going to be something fun to be able to work on. Now I'm actually going to give it away here. This is a 1950 Morris Minor. Now I believe from memory, or from what I'm reading anyway, these came out with either an 850cc or an 1100 engine. So I'm not entirely sure what size engine it is, but we can explore that in the episodes to come. So he wants us to have a look at the engine, get a bit more performance out of it, upgrade the brakes, maybe a disc brake conversion, and while we're there, we're probably going to have a look at the gearbox, because this thing is just grinding gears like nothing else. While we're there, we might as well pull the diff out, check the backlash, check all the bearings, give it a major service, and put it all back together. So essentially what we're going to be doing is just going for a bit of a drive and working out the faults that are in the vehicle. So let's pull over and let's have a look. In order to start this old girl, you really need to do a couple of different things. It's quite quirky, it is quite cool. So first thing we're going to do is check out the gear selector. Now going into first, it does grind a little bit, and driving through second, it does grind as well. So let's just have a bit of a feel and see what it's like. Oh, so second gear, coming up to an intersection, we're just going to go left, see if we can get it back into first. So this thing could have a dog box, it might not have a synchro first gear, and if that's the case, then so be it. But we want to try and look into those sort of issues. So we're in second at the moment. Yeah, okay, so third gear is grinding as well. Now I highly doubt fourth is going to grind, simply because it is a 1-to-1 ratio, and all the torque has already gone through the first 3 gears. There is torque obviously in the fourth gear, but there's not going to be as much power going through fourth gear as what there would first through the third. So let's just turn down here and let's have a look. Still in third. Yeah, this thing is pretty gutless, to be honest. Alright, so go from third straight into fourth. Yeah, that was absolutely beautiful. So next thing we're going to do is just hit the brakes and see how good they are. And yeah, actually not too bad. It does have a fair amount of suspension body roll, so that's not too bad. Well, something we can also fix, and the horn is directly in the middle here, so so one thing I keep doing is when I turn the steering wheel, I hit the horn because it's directly in the middle of the steering wheel. So braking, it's not too bad. We're going to probably look at upgrading. Now, I have done a bit of research. In order to upgrade the brakes, if we wanted to convert it to discs, we're then going to have to run different wheels. Now, in Australia, or at least in New South Wales, you can increase track by 25mm a side, so the overall width of the vehicle. Anything more than that is deemed illegal. Now this thing is registered in Queensland and their rules are very different to what we have here in New South Wales. So we could probably do that, but by the look of it, we're probably going to be looking around 4 to 5 grand to be able to do it. So I'm not sure if it's something we really want to be investing in, because this customer owned one of these back in the 60s and it was his first car. So we don't want to modify it too much. We want to kind of try and keep that same originality feel for it. So out of 10, I'd probably give the brakes about a 6. They're not too bad. They are a little bit firm. They probably need readjusting, but we're probably going to upgrade while we're there. And we'll probably just replace with a set of shoes, drums, springs, wheel cylinders, and do a brake fluid flash while we're there. So rev matching the gears is a really good way to prevent the gears from grinding. So that's probably the easiest thing I can recommend for anyone that has a grinding gearbox. Alright, so performance-wise, this thing, as I said, this thing's probably about a 3 out of 10. Compared to my Mini, yeah, it is quite slow. So, 3 out of 10. Now, handling, it handles like a boat. You can see here, like, it's got that much body roll in it. It's pretty loose. So, definitely a set of springs and probably shocks as well to help stiffen it up is definitely going to help the drivability and the ride quality as well. Now, in saying that, if I hit the brakes, it does have a bit of boat-like action. She does rock up and down quite a lot, so we probably need to address that. Alright, so as for the gearbox, I'd probably give it about a 4.5 out of 10. It's not bad, but it's not overly good, so that's my score on that. Now, the overall appearance of this vehicle, it is an old vehicle, and I'm not going to sit here and scrutinise it, and I've never worked on one of these, nor do I know what they're like, so it is quite interesting to drive. It does have this mad little quirky indicator down here, which I'll show you guys in a sec. So in order for you to turn the indicators on, you just turn it one way, that's right, and then we turn it to the left. Pretty cool, pretty quirky. It does have a couple of really basic gauges. We have a fuel gauge, we have a speedo, and we have an oil pressure gauge. Now this thing is by far not going to be breaking any world land speed records. So let's try and improve the performance of this thing. So the plan with this is we're going to pull the engine out, we're going to strip it, we're going to send it away, we're going to do some internal work to it. So we're going to refurbish the crankshaft, probably put a bigger camshaft in, probably a set of push rods if it needs it, some valve springs, recondition the block, do all the basic sort of internals, probably even bore it out, 60 or 80 thou. Now I think from memory you can go up to about 160 thou in these, so whatever we can go safely we'll certainly do, but whatever's recommended by the machinist is probably what we're going to be doing. While we're there, we're going to set the gearbox away and get that rebuilt. I'm going to redo the brakes, I'm going to redo the suspension and even the differential as well. There's a couple of little things as well I just want to look at. The first one is the set of wiper blades, so let's just pull over and let's just have a look. Alright, so one of the really cool but quirky things about this car is the wiper blades. So you've obviously got one here and you got one there. Now to activate the wipers, you pull that. So that mechanism's not working, so that's something we're going to be addressing as well. And the one thing that really caught me out was how to open the bonnet on these things. Man, it took me forever to find it. Turns out it's underneath the dash. There's a little rod you pull and then it pops the bonnet. So like I said, this thing runs a flathead engine. So it is something I'm not overly familiar with, but we'll go over the entire car, we'll check it all out and we'll have a look. And this thing is also convertible as well. So any of you guys out there who have driven one of these, owned one of these, or known someone, done any sort of work to it, please let me know in the comment section below, because this thing is going to be super fun to work on and I cannot wait to start it with you guys. So I know that we're in the middle of doing the Morris Mini 1275 at the moment, but I thought I'd just share with you guys a little bit of extra added material that we've got coming later this year. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Please stay tuned and we'll see you right here on another episode of Tomo's Tune-Ups. Before we go, one good thing about my new place is that I can fit 3 Minis side by side in my garage. It's that big. So working on these things is going to be pretty good. So we're going to park it up in the shed. We're going to start on it next episode. See you then, guys.